Hey everybody, hope you all had a good weekend, had a good Halloween and all that. We didn't do any trick-or-treating in our family, nor did we give out candy. We went to the zoo on Saturday, and by Sunday night we had a toddler with an earache. It turned out to be an ear infection. So I had to work at home, had to take the kid to the doctor, pick up medicine, come back home, keep working from home while watching the kid until the wife got home, and then when she got there I had to keep working until about 9:15. The neighborhood kids can get their own damn candy. Sorry about that. But it did get me thinking about costumes again. While we were at the zoo, I saw a lot of little girls in superhero costumes, which, you know, obviously I would traditionally think is pretty cool. But there was a problem with it. I didn't really care if the costumes were like 100% accurate. They're little kids' Halloween costumes, whatever. What I didn't like is how what I'm talking about is how every superhero costume for a little girl was pink. When my daughter was still an infant, one of the grandmothers bought her I guess it'd be a Batgirl t-shirt. I can only assume it was Batgirl because it had the bat symbol and everything on it, but it was a pink shirt and the bat symbol was like this silver, shimmery, glittery thing. And the grandmother had the best of intentions, knowing I'm a big Batman fan and knowing I've been getting my daughter, superhero shirts and stuff, and wanted to combine the two for us. That was, sweet and all. My kid looked great in her Fantastic Four shirt and her Ghost Rider shirt. She looked kind of badass. And she wanted to get something like that for her. But I actually refused to let my daughter wear it because I don't know if I had to explain it to her or I let my wife do it. Batgirl doesn't wear pink. And again, it's not a costume accuracy thing, but the pink is just kind of insulting to both Batgirl and my kid. Batgirl doesn't wear pink. Supergirl doesn't wear pink. Sue Storm doesn't wear pink. Spider-Woman, all these characters. They might, like Supergirl, sometimes wear a more feminine version of the, I guess, male counterpart of their outfit. But they wear usually just the same thing. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon traditionally wore kind of like the 70s Neil Adams Batman. Gray suit, blue cape and cowl. And the bat symbol was just usually slightly different stylized, perhaps, but in yellow than as opposed to the black or gray. And it's cool. She can wear the same outfit as Batman because she can handle her shit. She may not be able to win a physical, like a fist fight with Batman, but is she as smart as him? Yeah, I'd say probably, if not more. Is she as determined as him? Girl got shot, by the Joker and got paralyzed, and she's like, you know what? I'm not giving up on crime fighting. I'm going to find a way to keep doing this and perhaps even make more of a difference. But she never had to be cutesy about it. She never had to go and like, oh, look, I'm fucking Batgirl. Yeah, she just was who she was. She doesn't play that sort of pink girly role. She's just Batgirl. It's not to say that these characters or these girls in real life can't have the more traditional, I guess, female roles or whatever. Sue Storm was a good mom. There are stories that show Black Canary as being a good cook, making a meal for Ollie and everything. But they never got this sort of, I'm special because I'm a girl. They said, I'm special because I'm special, because of who I am, not because I have a vagina. They don't wear pink. If a girl likes pink, that's fine. If a girl likes comics, super. If she wants to combine the two, great. I've seen recently a lot of pictures of little girls mixing superheroes and princesses in one costume, which I think is great. But the companies that are making these shirts and these costumes just automatically assuming that if it's a little girl's costume and it's a superhero, we've got to throw it in pink. Or the adult costumes, if it's a superhero costume for a woman, she has to be a whore. Just make a costume for the character. At least one that respects that they're more than their genders. Batgirl is Batgirl. She's not bat with a vagina. Give her some credit. God help me if the day comes when Elliot does want to wear pink Batgirl outfit, pink Batsuit would just would break my heart. Didn't get a chance to watch any big horror movies or anything over the Halloween weekend. I've been really cutting back on my horror movie intake over the past several years. But I did watch a lot of the rundowns of the horror movie franchises over on Cinemassacre. And it got me thinking about the origins of some of the big characters that, I grew up with. If you look at Freddy and Michael Myers, both of these guys were created by writer-directors who had a real vision. They had a character they wanted to make. They had the style they wanted to make them in. They had a story they wanted to tell. They were so involved in so much, especially Carpenter with Michael Myers, doing the music in all of his movies and stuff. They were built from the ground up. Wes Craven and John Carpenter aren't maybe going to get the same recognition of a Spielberg or a Lucas, whatever. But the characters and the series that they built really were kind of they laid the bedrock upon which an entire genre really was built. They made a new modern film type. Jason, though, Voorhees, he came from an entirely different place in the fact that, he didn't even really show up in his movies until 3 or 4 as a real villain. According to the old internets, he was kind of created or credited to a guy, Sean Cunningham, who created the Friday the 13th series. But Jason developed over time. He wasn't created, he evolved. All three of the characters have had a lot of inconsistencies in how they're portrayed. Their continuity is for shit. Everything changes from movie to movie, and when is it really a true death? Obviously never. But they're all great. I treat them a lot like I treat comic book characters, in that I can't look at any single story as being the true official version. There have been so many changes and so much bad continuity that I can take the bits and pieces from, here's the history, here's the story I know, and I essentially create my own vision of what this character is, what their world is, who they are, what their powers are, where they came from. Because it's impossible to get that from movies alone. And I kind of like that. I know who I think of as Freddy. I know who I think, Jason is, or Michael Myers. I kind of like that freedom to create my version based upon their mythology. Arguably, of the three, I'd say Freddy is the most popular. I'd say that because it's probably because he could talk. We got to see a lot more of his personality than we did for Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Pardon me, I keep saying that wrong. Voorhees. But yeah, when he talks, you got a feeling for his personality, and sometimes it went a bit too far with the humor and stuff. But you got a sense that he wasn't just a guy; he was sadistic. He really enjoyed killing. He enjoyed hurting people. Sometimes the jokes did make it a bit cheesy, but you got that he was bad through and through. You got his story, that's who he was, that's what he did, and he enjoyed it. Also, arguably, I'd say that Jason is probably the most successful. I think he's had the most movies in his franchises, of all these franchises. His hockey mask is probably more famous now as a Jason mask than it is as a straight hockey mask. His movies probably have made the most money overall. I can't guarantee that. I'm not going to bother to look it up. But and as far as character-wise goes, his greatest weakness, it comes from his greatest strength. And that is his strength. By this point in the movies, in the story or what have you, he's essentially unstoppable. No matter how hard you hit him, he'll come back. No matter what you cut off, he'll come back. No matter if you blow him into pieces, he'll come back. It kind of limits him, being a one note, but he plays that one note really well. I kind of dig just the walking wall of machete. He's a good guy. And finally, and also arguably, I'd say the most important is Michael Myers. He's not nearly as popular as Freddy or Jason. You wouldn't necessarily, when you say Michael Myers, they're going to think Austin Powers. Most people don't really dig on the Halloween thing. But he is the key. He made things happen. Excuse me. when John Carpenter made those movies, 1 and 2, played that goddamn creepy music, which actually I have as a ringtone on my phone. I turned it off because I don't like waking up in the middle of the night hearing that music playing if somebody calls me. But that music's playing and he's chasing Laurie from the 3 houses. That's some serious shit. He lit like the slasher fuse, you know, he opened the floodgates, and so much came because of Halloween. That idea of the kind of character, combined with cheap, you know, video equipment, combined with the explosive growth of VHS, made this entire slasher cottage industry. I mean, they made so much money off these horror movies. And I think a lot of it is due to Michael Myers and John Carpenter. The 80s, you know, was probably the bloodiest decade in film history. You know, started, you know, you go back in horror movies, it started with, you know, no blood, then drops of blood, then some handfuls of blood, then a bucket of blood. By the time you get to the 80s, you have barrels of corn syrup everywhere. I attribute a lot of that to Michael Myers and John Carpenter. When discussing this a little bit ago with a friend, he said it would be a mistake to overlook the impact of Leatherface. I agree, 100%. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw was one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen. Just terrifying, chilling movie. Its ties to Psycho are great from a film standpoint, you know, and the fact that so little violence is actually shown, so little blood is actually spilled. You go back and watch TCM, and it's not as bad as you think it is. You know, you never actually see that meat hook going in the back. You think you do. You think you see it going, but you don't see it. It's awesome. And, you know, again, with Psycho, the whole Ed Gein thing, that makes it really frightening to think that guys like this existed, continue to exist. But as much impact as the film had, the character was limited. Where the other franchises built upon and developed the character more, every time you had a Chainsaw sequel, it got worse. You know, Leatherface was great in the first one, and then the movies just kept getting shittier and shittier. Leatherface was a victim of his own success. Because Chainsaw was so good, he never broke out of that. When I think of Leatherface, I don't have the luxury that I have with other characters of building my world around him. That story tells, this is Leatherface. This is all you know of him, and that's all you need to know. And I can't go any farther. He is what he was, and I think that's as much as he's ever going to get to be. It's great. You know, he has a very important, hugely important piece of the horror landscape, but it's much smaller than what the other characters have. Tobe Hooper made a hell of a film, but it's self-contained. I'm fine with that. But that's all for today. I hope that you guys all have a good day as well. I've got a lot of work to do this week at home and at the office, so wish me luck with that. You guys enjoy your time for the rest of the week here. I'll talk to you later.